Now, the story of a book, the Bible of Modern Surgery. It could help a doctor save your life, but as Impact discovered, it was created by followers of Adolf Hitler, who may have used as models for their illustrations of the human anatomy, victims of Nazi terror. Should your doctor use it? An ethical dilemma and a medical detective story told by Art Harris.
To put a single tooth implant.
It's Monday morning at New York's Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. Today's procedure, a skin graft to fix the inside of a scarred mouth.
Perfect.
For 20 years, oral surgeon Howard Israel has relied on steady hands and the confidence that comes from doing his homework. The routine is always the same, or at least it used to be, and it began with this book.
This book was your Bible of anatomy.
It's like having the living dissection right there.
This book, the Pernkopf Atlas, took Dr. Israel inside the human body before he ever picked up the knife. It's perhaps the best anatomy book ever done, using superbly detailed illustrations painted from human cadavers.
89 edition.
There are about 100,000 copies of the American edition in print, tens of thousands more in the original German.
I used to use this book virtually before every surgery that I did.
But then came the day that would shake up the habits of Howard Israel and force him to look for answers halfway around the world. To make peace with the present, he would have to travel more than 50 years into the past, into the shocking world of Nazi medicine.
This is the Pernkopf Atlas of Anatomy that my wife bought for me.
Israel was getting ready for surgery when a colleague passed on a rumor he'd heard that his cherished book had been put together by a Nazi doctor who may have used Nazi victims to make it. Suddenly, for Howard Israel, surgery was a moral dilemma.
Wet sponge, please.
Or at least how he got ready for it. Should he keep using the Nazi textbook he'd unwittingly relied on?
So why are you struggling so much with this?
Well, I'm tormented because I don't know how you create good from evil.
For answers, he came here, to the medical library at Columbia University. A surgeon turned medical detective. He checked out the German language editions of the book from 1937 and 1943 and looked at the drawings in a new light.
This 1943 edition, and one of the first drawings that I saw was this picture of a pregnant female, her abdomen dissected open. Artist's name was Lepier, L-E-P-I-E-R, but you could see in the signature here, he signed the tail end of his name with a swastika.
Israel found other clues and showed us this one, a drawing done by another artist, Karl Interesser. He'd changed the two S's in his signature to match the lightning bolt symbols of Hitler's dreaded stormtroopers, the SS. The drawing itself, done during the war years, is of a man who Israel believes to be circumcised.
So what did that tell you?
That it was very possible that this might have been a person who was of Jewish origin.
Could the bodies used in the Atlas be Jewish concentration camp inmates? That was just one question. And who was the Nazi behind it all? Meet Edward Pernkopf, professor of anatomy at the University of Vienna, an amateur composer. In the 30s, he took on the Atlas as his life's work. Pernkopf recruited a team of illustrators to paint cadavers, carefully dissected so that every vessel, every organ inside the body could be perfectly mapped. But Pernkopf led another life, as Howard Israel soon discovered.
This is Edward Pernkopf addressing his medical faculty. You could see that he's standing behind the picture of Adolf Hitler.
Indeed, Pernkopf was an ambitious Nazi at a university medical school where the faculty had been mostly Jewish. There, Pernkopf became a star by hitching his star to Hitler.
Pernkopf, in 1938, was named the dean of the University of Vienna School of Medicine after Hitler annexed Austria. And Pernkopf led the purge against the Jewish faculty.
Pernkopf, along with many of his artists, was a member of the Nazi Brown Shirts, a strong believer in Nazi theories of racial purity. By the end of the war, Pernkopf had been promoted to rector, president of the University of Vienna. Then the Allies captured Austria. And Pernkopf spent 2 years at a camp that deprogrammed Nazis. Pernkopf later went back to the University of Vienna and worked on the book until he died in 1955.
And after 20 years, I had no idea. I had no idea about this person. And it made me feel betrayed, very angry.
So angry, he wrote the prestigious Journal of the American Medical Association and demanded the University of Vienna investigate to come clean about the book's past.
It's a moral problem, an ethical problem.
In a place that has, until recently, turned dodging its Nazi past into an art form, Dr. Israel's demand found a powerful ally. The man who now holds Pernkopf's old job as head of the university, Professor Alfred Ebenbauer, a medieval literature scholar with a passion for human rights.
Of course, we have to be ashamed that the university played a very bad role during the Nazi time.
Ebenbauer launched an investigation. One of the first things he learned, that during the war, the bodies of political prisoners executed in a Gestapo-run court in Vienna actually did wind up at the university's Anatomy Institute. That's where Pernkopf did his work.
We know that there was an order that all executed persons from the court in Vienna should be brought there.
The Nazi court, called the Landesgericht in German, was so notorious, this monument in Vienna puts its name right up there with infamous concentration camps like Bergen-Belsen. The court dispatched political prisoners as well as common criminals. There was no mercy. Justice was the guillotine.
The executed persons may have been Jews, not Jews, a lot of victims. And I am a little bit hesitating whether we should make a difference in this context.
Well, they were all victims of Nazi terror.
They were all victims, of course.
Impact uncovered these drawings from 1943, showing what happened. At the urging of Pernkopf, the court sent the bodies of those executed to the basement of the nearby Anatomy Institute. They arrived in simple wooden coffins. The corpses were cleaned, stacked like so many cords of wood, then tossed into a large vat of formaldehyde. No one disputes medical students use Nazi victims to study anatomy. But here's the question. Did Nazi artists use the victims' bodies to create the textbook? To help unlock the mystery of the Pernkopf Atlas, we came to this man, Professor Werner Platzer of Innsbruck University. A world-famous anatomist, he's also the editor of the Pernkopf Atlas.
He was a Nazi, yes, absolutely correct.
As a young student after the war, Platzer worked with Pernkopf and his artists, and proudly displays dissections he did that were later drawn in the book. We wanted to know if these could have come from wartime victims of the Nazis.
There was never a question about this. Now I can't, therefore I can't say.
So this could be a victim of Nazi terror, you just don't know?
I don't know.
What about this one?
It's the same.
Figuring out whose bodies are really in the book means physically identifying the specimens and looking at the pictures for clues. We asked Platzer about this picture with a Nazi SS symbol in the signature, the same one that Howard Israel thinks could be of a Jewish concentration camp victim because it appears circumcised.
If you see, the foreskin is removed too. It isn't written here, but it's removed too.
So absolutely that rules out the possibility.
I wasn't there. I can't only say as anatomist. If it is circumcised, it's a very bad circumcision.
While Plotzer went out of his way to argue there were no Jewish victims in the book, that's a matter still under investigation. But he wasn't bothered that other Nazi victims may have been models for the artists. After all, he says, anatomy students in Vienna had been learning medicine thanks to the bodies of executed prisoners for more than 300 years. That's how the courts directed the bodies be used.
It was the law.
So killing the Austrian resistance fighters and using their bodies doesn't count as Nazi terror?
At this time, it was the law.
The Pernkopf Atlas is a medical mystery that may never be solved here in Vienna. And that still leaves doctors struggling with a moral dilemma about a book with a Nazi past, whether or not to even use the tainted masterpiece in the name of medicine.
Since I have found out that this book does have Nazi origins, I have not used the book.
Would you use the book?
To save lives, because I am a doctor. I must save lives, under all circumstances. I must save life.
A question of medicine over morality.
No, it is the highest, because we've sworn that we always are for life.
The publisher of the Atlas has agreed to sound the alarm in future editions, so every doctor will know what he's looking at.
Until then, it is the decision of everyone who uses that book of how he wants to confront the content of this book.
If the investigation does show that Pernkopf and his artists weren't just Nazis, but actually used victims of Nazi terror, then a publisher's warning might not be enough.
The long bones of the body.
Under consideration by the American Medical Association, a motion that could effectively ban the book in American medical schools.
Would it be really good, maybe, some would use the phrase, to burn the book? I don't know. From my point of view, burning books is a very, very problematic thing.
Now, just in terms of retract.
For Howard Israel, the idea of banning the book is unsettling. But seeking the truth has become his quest. Now, as he digs deeper and deeper into the horrors of Nazi medicine, he keeps coming back to the same question. Should he use the fruit of evil to save lives?
There are times where I say to myself, well, if I had to operate on my son tomorrow, and if I needed the knowledge that I could gain from this book, would I use it? And maybe the answer is yes.
You might be asking why Dr. Israel doesn't simply turn to another anatomical atlas as a reference, another without a tainted history. He believes there's nothing else nearly as good. An entire generation of surgeons trained on it, unaware of what Dr. Pernkopf had done to create his illustrations. So they felt no moral need to call for a replacement, until now. Bernie will be back with a final thought in a moment.
A final thought now on our recent story about Tanya Kwiatkowski, the American figure skater who narrowly missed a trip to the Olympics in Nagano. Next week, she will compete in the World Championships in Minneapolis. Olympic gold medalist Tara Lipinski fell ill and had to withdraw. Kwiatkowski, who tells us she kept up her training, is ready to go. She'll join teammates Michelle Kwan and Nicole Bobek. Now, here's a look at what's ahead on the next Impact.
Another standoff between a militiaman and the government.
As far as the FBI is concerned, I just want to blow their heads off.
But the sheriff says the standoff won't become another Waco, even though this militiaman is just begging to be a martyr.
Nothing would tickle him more than to have us surround that place, bring out the SWAT team and kick his door in.
For Impact, I'm Stephen Frazier in Atlanta. Bernie?
Stephen, and I'm Bernard Shaw in Washington. We'll see you next week on Impact.
Watch Impact stories and previews online and give us your feedback at cnn.com/impact. And join Time Magazine online at time.com. To purchase a printed transcript or videotape of the program, please call 1-800-CNN-NEWS.
Closed captioning was provided by Bell Atlantic, the heart of communication.